Welcome, IT changemakers, to the DEX Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to your favorite DEX show within a show, Reality Bytes. I'm Tom McGraw, joined as ever by Tim Flower. Tim, how's it going?
It's going good, Tom. I'm excited for another Reality Bites. This is good stuff.
I know what our listeners might not know is this is like the second of four podcasts we're recording this week. So we'll leave it to them to say whether this makes us especially sharp hosts or, slightly weakened and exhausted ones. What do you reckon?
I think it's going to be a blend, Tom. A little both.
Yeah, across the four, up and down, up and down. We'll
Yep.
see when we hear them again. We're joined. It's a bit of a sort of summertime skeleton crew once again, but we're very, very fortunate to be joined by Sam and Oriana today. First time we've had just the two of them as the panelists. Sam is, of course, representing the right side of the DEX Industries brain today. How you doing, Sam?
I'm good. I'm happy to be back. Yeah, the lone soldier on the content side this week, so trying to hold down the fort here.
Quite so. I'm the lone soldier on the side, on the left side of the DEX industry brain, representing that brain is Oriana. Oriana, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Splendid.
Always happy to talk about DEX.
Always happy to talk about DEX, and that's why we love having you on the show. And with that, let us hear the first story of the day from Sam.
All right, let's get into it. Yeah, the first topic I wanted to open the floor to discussion for today is the topic of SaaS Sprawl, which, if you're not familiar with the term, is definitely a phenomenon that most people are familiar with, which basically just means what happens when the number of applications that are being used in an environment, in a workplace, reaches the tipping point where administrators can no longer really manage this quantity of applications effectively, which obviously a very relevant topic during the last few years, but one I was really interested in getting Oriana's perspective on because there are really two sides of this coin for this issue. For employees, which is, the only side I've been on, it's a challenge to learn and adapt to, a steadily increasing number of applications in the workplace, which has been something that we've all dealt with over the past couple of years. And that's the side I'm on, obviously. But while we're trying to learn all these new tools, IT professionals are the ones dealing with the challenge of managing, an unprecedented number of apps and solutions. So that's the question I kind of wanted to explore today. Like, how can IT help employees adopt so many new tools while also keeping themselves from getting overwhelmed by, the steadily expanding technology stack?
I think it's a great question, and I agree that it's really different from those different perspectives. From the IT side, I think it really boils down to giving IT employees the right tools to succeed at these new and changing jobs. So I think IT employees really need tools that give them an overview of the many, many different applications in their environment. They need tools that allow them to tackle these problems at scale so that they're not playing whack-a-mole with, weasels. And that's definitely one of the ways that we approach it here at Nexthink from the product side is how do we help people get the visibility that they need? How do we make sure that the IT employees that are administering all these different applications can access the information they need rather than having to learn it themselves, right? Hunt down all kinds of details on software that they're not familiar with either.
And I looked at it from the IT side. Sam, it used to be that IT could control the applications that you run by only allowing you to execute the applications that were delivered to you through a tool like SCCM or something else, and then locking down the device. No administrative rights. You can't install anything, and therefore, if you can't install anything, we can control what you run. SaaS is now different because all you need is the browser, and you typically don't need to install anything. There may be some plugins and minor stuff, but you can now run things not only without IT control, but potentially without IT knowledge. This allows that concept of shadow IT to spread. An entire department can start running a SaaS application that IT has no idea they even have. So, the concept now of being able to see what people are running through a browser, being able to identify what's executing without having to go out to the firewall and see which domains are being hit. I think the knowledge of what's happening in that browser is ultra important, and it also gave rise to things like Okta and others, the cloud portals, where IT can go and grant access, not just for password control, but for access control to cloud platforms. So when employees come and go and leave the company, they can grant and remove access to the platform. So a whole new industry on how to control application access, just to manage and keep that sprawl a bit under control.
That's well said. I mean, actually, one of the conversations we're hearing a lot around the Nexthink water cooler at the moment, which is a wholly proverbial water cooler, by and large, is this notion that, like a lot of other sort of verticals in IT, there's this real kind of craze and mania for observability tools. Yet within IT operations, there is nothing like the same kind of clamor or realization that there is the same need. I mean, is this an area, Tim, Oriana, where that really kind of highlights the requirement for equivalent levels of visibility or observability, however you put it, in this specific vertical of IT operations, this kind of SaaS sprawl phenomenon?
I think so. A lot of the customers that I talk to are at the end user compute, the endpoint support, and the common feedback is we have no tools, we have no visibility. The network guys get all the cool stuff primarily because the network guys get blamed for everything. They need the tools to defend themselves. But the client folks, are clamoring for some ability to see what's going on out there, and I think you're dead on, Tom. It's a rise of the rise of visibility for the end user compute folks.
I think it's kind of ironic that in some ways the solution to having too many applications is more applications. But ideally, they are smarter applications. They're applications that solve the problem at hand and also that are easier to use, right? That's fundamentally what everybody wants, is easier to use software. That's one of the advantages too with the proliferation of choice. We talked about this on a previous podcast, but people want to be able to use the best option out there, whether it's IT employees or the end users. And that's one of the reasons why we have so many different SaaS applications being used at the same time. So fundamentally, I think IT departments need to be able to adapt to that scenario, which might also mean outsourcing some of the things that maybe they think of as their responsibility to their tools. That could mean things even like learning how to use the software, right? When it comes to this highly specialized software, there's so much software that's just very technical in a way that is relevant to a specific job role, right? What's technical to a finance person is really different than what's technical to a graphic design person, is different than what's technical to a network engineer. They have no visibility into the fine details of these different tools. But an IT support person can, for example, help identify ways that they can access what they need on their side versus what the end user needs on their side, which could be things like external tutorials, right? One of the third-party cloud software applications that I use is actually LinkedIn Learning to learn how to use another SaaS application like Excel. So I don't necessarily expect my IT department to know all of the details of every single piece of software.
Brilliant, brilliant. And you mentioned the outsourcing to technology, which, having had a sneak peek of what Sam is bringing to the table today, I believe is a beautiful segue into what that second story is, right, Sam?
Yep, great segue, Tom. That's why you're the best at this.
That's why I'm the best. Yeah, there it is.
But yeah, so this second story is another timely one where I think kind of general workers and IT professionals might again have two very different perspectives. So the topic that we've covered and I've written about a couple times is the topic of automation anxiety, which basically refers to, in simple terms, the fear of workers in a lot of different industries that as AI and automation keeps evolving and helping us, kind of taking on more responsibilities that used to be the responsibilities of human workers, that the AI and automation is going to replace the human workers themselves. Um, and in the context of IT in the workplace, it's an interesting topic because often the people that are most affected by the evolution of automation in the workplace, especially one like ours, are the IT workers who are often the ones architecting and using this technology. So, specifically, the reason that I wanted to talk about it here is as a topic that I've done a lot of research into and written about myself. I'm very curious, how do technology professionals actually feel about AI and automation? Because there's a lot of um, hyperbole out there and different ways that kind of this topic gets brought up in the news cycle. But I think it would be really interesting to kind of find out if, us as employees have any misconceptions about automation and AI versus how IT workers actually leverage these technologies and how they actually feel about where the next decade is going with automation and AI for their responsibilities specifically.
We will hand this over to Tim and Oriana momentarily, but just a word to the wise for everybody on this podcast. We are on a kind of Noah's Ark here, automation wise. I have never heard of anyone wanting to listen to an automated podcast. So as it is, we're in a safe zone,
You're
people, and
safe.
stick with us. We're going to be okay. That said, over to you, Tim, on the broader, more significant side of the issue.
I think it's a cool topic. I think there's a potential for future anxiety as that matures, and the other half of AI, which is ML, the machine learning, and what does it really replace? My perception right now, and this goes back a good, I hate to say how many years, 10, 20, 30 years, we've been using automation to do a lot of things: automated software install, automated software delivery, automated inventory, now automated remediation. But fundamentally, IT teams that are on the operations side, in my view, have never been overstaffed. There's never excess capacity, and automation has been seen as a welcome tool to help me get my job done without having to go hire more people. So I think there's still that optimism that automation can help get the job done, help look at data a different way, help me get new insights to do new things that I couldn't do before. I'm not getting a sense that automation necessarily has anxiety associated with it, that it might fully replace me. But I think the next 5 to 10 years could be telling that if it really can start to bring some new insights along with execution, along with new capabilities that could be coming down the road. But I'd be curious to know what Ariana thinks.
What I've heard, especially in talking to our customers, is that the job is changing. It's not getting easier. I heard a great story from someone, one of our very experienced customers. He's been in the industry for ages. And he said, the loss of fax machines did not reduce the overall number of tickets. It just means I get 0 tickets about fax machines. Now I have 1 million tickets about Zoom meetings. And there's way more of those than there were about fax machines, right? So there's this idea that if things change, that doesn't necessarily mean that the workload is lighter. It just looks different. I think there's a huge benefit to automation in improving ease of use for the end user, ideally also for the IT professional who can use tools to, for example, automatically push updates or remediations, not just to one person, but to entire batches of people who have the same software. Again, if we have dozens of different types of software, that's still dozens of pushes.
That's so interesting. I mean, I once heard, I think it was Andrew Hewitt from Forrester, who's coming back on the show very soon, actually. He made the point of recommendation, and if it wasn't him, some analyst did, I quite remember, that we should all be in our roles, and this excludes podcasters, seeking to automate ourselves out of our own job, which is not obviously an injunction to try and make yourself unemployed. It's obviously tacitly an injunction to become so skilled at something, you become essential in allowing a specific area of your company to progress. And I would think, particularly as it pertains to IT and the direction of IT, that seems like really, really sage advice. I mean, would you agree with that, Tim?
Yeah, I think focusing on the knowledge you bring and the value you bring versus the tasks that you do, I think is really good advice. I think people are scared about designing or automating their way out of a job, but it needs to be done consciously with what's the next role you play based on the value you bring and the experience you have versus the tasks that you do.
I think organizations also have a really important role to play there. Some organizations struggle to change in holistic ways that incentivize and support those changes. So
Right.
specifically, if an organization changes the roles and responsibilities of their IT team, but their incentive structures are tied to old ways of working, it'll cause huge friction. So I've seen this, I've spoken to people where, for example, they give bonuses based on tickets closed, which means they cannot convince people to take a more proactive approach because that would literally compete with how they're getting paid.
Wow.
It's very antiquated, right? What we want is for those organizations to think, how do we support our employees in doing more interesting work, in doing work that is more effective for us and more fulfilling for them, right? I think most people don't like to be essentially doing something that a robot could do.
Yeah, that's really, really well said, Oriana. It would be a bit like giving Sam his bonus based on every spelling he corrected on the DEX Hub, right?
Hey, we can talk about it.
It would be a sizable bonus.
I think that
Let's tell you
it incentivizes the wrong behavior, I think there. So
Perhaps so, perhaps so. Well, listen, that was a fantastic discussion, everyone. Thank you so much for bringing that fire, as always. Really, really appreciate it. And look forward to seeing you all on the next show. And Tim, I'll see you in a couple of hours probably for
yeah.
our recording. Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye. See you guys.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how Nexthink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nexthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.